we're going to go ahead and send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, Pyra. SK Gaming, their fastest win of the entire season so far here, going back to basics. Let's touch on picks and bans. We saw Lucian and Gray's bans coming out for H2K, and SK said, fine, we're just going to ban out Jinx and Kog'Maw as well and play your game. What did you make of the rest of picks and bans?
Yeah, speaking to N-Rated earlier, he said when we ban those AD carries, it really throws them off as far as the compositions they can go. They felt like whatever AD carries they had left and what compositions they would play, they'd have the counters for it, and it was actually really genius. When these two teams face, it's the dragons that are going to be the most important. They're securing the early dragons, and through the draft, they're able to secure both a winning dual lane and a winning top lane, forcing H2K to send their dual lane top. And when that happens, and you have your dual lane bottom, that's a free dragon for you. And when you get the first one, you usually get the second one. So it's just a very great pick and ban out of SK.
It really was, and I think I have to highlight and reiterate the winning top lane matchup. Freddy was not denied farm, there was not enough pressure, despite H2K trying to make it happen. They sent a couple roams up top, it didn't work out. They sent a bunch of people down to try jump on Forgiven and Rated. That didn't work out either. So the early game plan that H2K attempted to implement didn't work out. And you saw the rest of the mid game completely fall apart.
Yeah, one thing that is very clear is that SK expected the lane swap. They played along that H2K is going to lane swap 100%. The early dragon, as Leviathan pointed out already, is super important for both teams because whoever gets that first one is usually able to secure the following ones. And SK just had the pressure all over the place. H2K tried to put some pressure on the top lane and deny Freddy. It didn't work at all. Freddy came ahead even, and even a little bit ahead in the early game. So it was just perfectly played out by SK.
Definitely, and as you said, if you get those first couple of dragons, the other team has to react, and H2K was feeling the pressure. Let's get a replay up on the screen of the third dragon that was contested because H2K really want to get this one.
Yeah, as the official pointed out correctly, you got the Shyvana coming in from the flank before this fight even started. Rio went in with the steal. This steal should never have happened at all, just with a LeBlanc Q. And then you see Freddy coming in, going for the carries, and on the right side of the screen, Forgiven is let alone. He's let alone with only Maokai. If the Maokai engages in that situation, you want your damage dealers on that carry. So you want Ryu and you want Hjarnan on Forgiven to deal some damage and put him down quickly so you can clean up. What happened was the Kassa win going in and just cleaning it up.
Yeah, you really did. And the thing that stands out to me about that particular fight, H2K are not a team that traditionally picks bad dragon fights. If a dragon is going, they will either let it go and pressure elsewhere on the map, or they will fully commit to an objective. With Ryu going for the steal and Odawamne going for Forgiven, you've even got the team H2K split up on the team fight. It felt like they weren't on the same page earlier when Hjarnan initiated with the Silver ulti. It was about 2 or 3 seconds early. The rest of the team wasn't there. I think H2K are not on the same page, and they need to get on the same page if they want to bounce back against SK Gaming.
Yeah, when you're going to dive a carry like that, how they jumped onto Forgiven, you have to kill him. And they weren't able to pick up the kill, so Forgiven lives, and then Kassadin was just free to kill everyone that he wanted to.
And one very crucial thing is, if you're playing against the Kassadin, you want to be grouped. Whenever he goes in for the offensive jump, you want to lock the Kassadin down and then kill him as fast as possible. What happened was, H2K split it up all the side, Maokai as the only tank in that situation, being alone on Forgiven, and the rest just spreading all on the field. That makes it very easy for the Kassadin to just jump from one target to another and pick everyone singled out.
Able to find those 1v1s.
Yeah, absolutely. And H2K, as you said, didn't find their footing. And the moment that SK did win a fight, the Dragon fight, and the tower after, they just kept on pushing. And as said, the Caitlyn was just untouched in the back, and the Kassadin getting riled up as well. One quick thing I want to touch on before we look ahead to the next game, the Shyvana top lane smite this time around. I mean, of course, it worked now because everything worked for SK Gaming, but I'm yet to see a game here in the European LCS where I say, whoa, this has given me a clear advantage for this or this team.
I completely share the sentiment. And I think even if Freddy had Flash in this particular matchup, it would have still worked out the same because it wasn't the challenging smite that helped them win those mid-game team fights.
Yeah, and he's doing his best Zamboni impression, just laying down the ice. I was really happy to see. I assume he trained it over the last week because he was not that too impressive on it in his previous series that he played, but he played it very well today.
The idea behind the challenging smite is that you have an exhaust and an ignite at the same time. You're going to smite the target that you go for, then you get 20% less damage, and you get the true damage on hit. So on paper, it's really powerful. But I personally have seen it work twice. One time in the LPL, one time in LCK. In the EU LCS, it was never a deciding factor.
Come on, EU LCS.
And one more thing, this patch we're playing on is not the current live patch. When you smite Gromp, it still does 10% rather than 5% of damage. And so it's already known to the balancing team that the current Gromp they're playing on is overpowered. So taking the smite is actually pretty smart.
Well, we'll see if maybe in the game where SK gets behind and we see the real power of the challenging smite coming out of Freddy. Let's look ahead to the next game, Trevor.
Well, the thing I want to highlight, you said if SK gets behind. SK played exactly their style. Last week against the Unicorns of Love, they tried to go late game. They picked scaling team comps, they didn't pick lane bullies, and they lost late game to the Unicorns of Love. SK go back to what their bread and butter playstyle is, and they absolutely demolish H2K. I'm not expecting them to get behind as long as they pick strong laning champions, because mechanically this sound, the stage, the lights, the crowd, it's not going to throw this team off. They've been here, they've done this. So as long as they play their recipe, I think chances are grim for H2K.
That was a big question for me coming into this game. How motivated is SK? How can you motivate a team that was supposed to win the whole thing, was first place after the split was over, and then has to fight a third place game? The motivation level, they give their everything. They are 100% in the game, they're in the zone. And one thing that I want to point out is, if you're H2K, you might want to think about betting the Kassadin, because the Kassadin was over 50 CS ahead and 1.5 whole items. As a LeBlanc, you want to one-shot carries. You want to be the one making the picks, and he wasn't able to do that because the Kassadin was always in his face. You can't let that go through a second time.
Yeah, you can't, but then the question is, do you leave then the Zed open if you want to stick to your Lucian and Graves bans? I think for H2K, the key might not be in the bans, but just the way they take on the early game.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure the direction they want to take with the bans. I think the LeBlanc pick is good in theory, but yeah, like Dentis said, the Kassadin pick was just very good against it. I honestly think they could ban out Kassadin rather than Zed in this next match.
All right, well, we will see what they decide to go with. We need to take a short break as H2K look towards Game 2 to even out the series. Stay with us. We'll see you in 3.5.
Come on, boy. All right, good luck. Let's go. Come on.
They were unsuccessful. Otowane going in on Forgiven. That is going to be the Dragon secured thanks to Ryu. The Monsoon's out on unrated, but SK are scrambling around. In comes Otowane, and let's see if they get pushed back. The Dragon's Ascent comes down. Forgiven staying alive as he picks off Lulex, taking down the Kitty Yarnin, trying to run away, but he's popped up by Svenskaren. Chases on Dragon's Ascent onto Lulex Yarnin. He's going to pop his heal. Has to go flash. There's the inhibitor coming back up, but it may be too little too late. A double kill from Fox. Otowane isolated from the pack is Forgiven. Picks up Ryu. Otowane's gonna go down. Kasing, the only one safe for now. Maybe I spoke too soon, or maybe not. Fox comes through, and so does Kasing. Another ace. This time, SK Gaming are eyeballing the end of the game.
Such a nice game from SK.